Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really fun hyper offense team featuring Choice Band Dracozolt, Life Orb Cinderace, as well as Choice Specs Kyogre and Speed Calyrex-Ice Rider. This was built by a player called Vishy, who was able to finish 14th at the Salt Lake City Regional Championships a couple of weekends ago, and I think this is a really fun hyper-offense team that's a little bit unorthodox, especially given the Dracozolt and the Cinderace. So, congrats to Vishy for the finish at Salt Lake. I've linked his Twitter and YouTube channel down in the description below. He actually has a really fun YouTube channel where he does runs in various Pokemon games, and so credits to him for the team, and as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below, and thanks so much as always for watching. If you do enjoy, please share your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. So, the general idea behind this team is that it uses some of the most powerful attacks in the format. You've got Choice Band Boltbeak from Zolt. A Dracozolt, by the way, a Pokemon that I haven't seen in a very long time. This was a Pokemon that was pretty good in the beginning of Sword and Shield, especially as the Dynamax option, but, you know, the main thing is with Hustle, it's not exactly the most consistent Pokemon. However, Vishy actually mentioned that he had the Dracozolt on his team specifically against like the Palkia teams that were popping up, especially Palkia plus Amoonguss or Indeedee, where you can just demolish Palkia with Choice Band Breaking Swipe, which is such a cool strategy that no one would ever really expect, right? So Dracozolt can really pack a punch. It can also just one-shot a lot of things with Choice Band Helping Hand Boltbeak, which is very, very powerful. But it's going to come out a little bit more in like niche matchups and scenarios. The team generally revolves around doing a ton of damage with spread-type attacks, and so Choice Specs Kyogre is just an absolute monster. I feel like not a lot of people actually expect Specs as an item, and so with Specs, like especially with Helping Hand support, there's essentially no free switch into Kyogre other than Storm Drain Pokemon. Even something like Rillaboom will take like over 50% from a Helping Hand Water Spout combo, for example. And so you can just get a ton of damage across the board. Whimsicott enables the Kyogre by setting up Tailwind for it, and then Indeedee has redirection support as well as Psychic Terrain, right? And Fake Out, or Follow Me support. And so the thing with Follow Me is that it's really valuable, and then Psychic Terrain is that it's really good because it prevents people from actually clicking Fake Out into Kyogre. You think about all the Fake Out users in the format right now, like Rillaboom and Incineroar, for example. If you can deny them Fake Out and just go for Follow Me into Water Spout turn 1, you can essentially just get a free knockout or force your opponent's Incineroar, for example, to switch out and get a ton of damage into whatever's coming in. So much about this team is getting the right damage distribution off with Kyogre. Most of the time, you're going to Dynamax Cinderace or Calyrex-Ice Rider. Cinderace, a Pokemon that also was really popular, you know, earlier in Sword and Shield and hasn't seen as much usage, but works really well with this hyper offense team because you can further increase your Pokemon's speed with Max Airstream. That's really essential against other fast teams. And Max Darkness is also really valuable to lower your opponent's special defense, allowing Kyogre to do more damage with its Water Spouts. And so there's so many different ways that you can play with the team. The Calyrex, by the way, is also actually really speedy. It's just max attack, max speed. So under Tailwind, you actually outspeed almost everything in the format, right? And so basically you just have a ton of damage output here, and the goal is to just attack your opponent before they can really move. Tons of different ways that you can approach it, right? Like, I like Indeedee Kyogre if they have a lot of, like, Pokemon are weak to Kyogre and they don't have great spread type of damage, especially if they don't have something like Regieleki. Whimsicott Kyogre is strong, Whimsicott Cinderace is strong, you know, set up Tailwind, start Dynamaxing, and then sweep the game with Kyogre and Calyrex. So, tons of different lead options. The other thing I'll talk about with Calyrex here is that you have Seed Bomb, and that's really essential because otherwise Gastrodon's actually a huge pain for this team to deal with because then your best damage is either Specs Ice Beam from Kyogre, Breaking Swipe from Dracozolt, or maybe a Max Move from Cinderace. And so Calyrex here is going to be really essential against all the Gastrodons that you're going to run into in the format. So, yeah. You know, like Kyogre does have the option of Dynamaxing in the right matchup as well, but Cinderace and Calyrex, the most consistent options. Dracozolt can Dynamax if you're bringing it as well. The key thing to know with Dracozolt is obviously with Hustle, it's going to be a little bit inconsistent, so make sure you're bringing it when you can afford to take that gamble with Hustle, right? And be like, okay, 80% of the time, you know, should I hit my attacks, then I'll be in a fantastic position. And even if I miss, I can still potentially claw back and win the game, right? So bring it in matchups where you feel like you really need it, and like I mentioned, especially good into those Palkia teams that like to go with Palkia plus redirection and try to set up Trick Room on the first turn of the game. So yeah, that's it for the team. Excited to see what hyper offense can do. I feel like it's been a while since we featured a team as fast paced and strong as this one. I feel like the format right now lends more towards like bulky teams. So eager to see how things play out. And question of the day, with us using Dracozolt, I want to know what you think the best design fossil Pokemon is down in the comment section below. So let's get started. All right, getting into things here, and we've got Palkia Calyrex-Ice Rider, which is, you know, still a pretty good team composition. There was actually a regionals in Taiwan recently, and I believe that there were like 2 or 3 Palkia Ice Rider teams in the top 8, if I remember correctly. So this is where Choice Band Dracozolt is actually really interesting, because you've got Choice Banded Breaking Swipe, which is very, very nice into Palkia. Indeedee also has Helping Hand. So if I think Palkia is going to be the Trick Room setter here with Amoonguss as redirection, I could go Indeedee Dracozolt and just Helping Hand Breaking Swipe immediately. Cinderace is okay offensively. Like, another thing to consider is Cinderace into Kyogre with Max Darkness stuff. We really want to deny Trick Room here, ideally. So, definitely don't mind going with Dracozolt. I don't mind going with Indeedee, and then I think I'm going to go Kyogre and Calyrex in the back. The only interesting question here is who I actually want to Dynamax. Like, I think Cinderace would be a decent pick here, but I'm very, very intrigued by Dracozolt, because I was actually reading, you know, the original creator Vishy and his reasoning for why Dracozolt was on the team, and he mentioned that it was initially added because Redirection plus Palkia was a really, really tough combination to go up against. So I think Whimsicott over Indeedee could be interesting here as well, because it does get access to Taunt and Helping Hand, and then it would also be immune to the potential Spores from Amoonguss, but Indeedee having Redirection support I think is also decently valuable here. Okay, it's going to be Porygon 2 and Palkia. Yeah, so I guess if I went with Whimsicott here turn 1, I could have gone for, say, Taunt onto the Porygon with Whimsicott. Like, here you would think Palkia protects or switches out as Porygon tries to set up Trick Room, right? So, this is a little bit risky. It is really scary to just rely on Choice Band Hustle Bolt Beak. But I could just go for a Helping Hand Bolt Beak right now. In one-shot Porygon as Palkia maybe protects or switches out. It's a little bit risky for sure. Like, the accuracy is obviously not going to be amazing here, but I think that it's a really heavy payoff, and I think if I were my opponent, I would consider protecting or switching out Palkia right now. You could just Dynamax it, I suppose. They are actually going to max it. Okay, interesting. I wonder if they go for a max guard or they're just attacking here. I guess, like, the assumption is if you're max speed Palkia, you would just outspeed Dracozolt, right? And then just go for max Wormwind. But it feels a little bit risky if I just went for Follow Me into a max Wormwind onto their Palkia. But I guess the thing is, like, Calyrex-Ice Rider is pretty solid for them here. So actually that makes a lot of sense, I think. So I'm mainly curious how fast their Palkia is relative to us. Okay, Dracozolt is faster, so we do get the Choice Band Bolt Beak off, and that should one-shot Porygon. There are not many attacks that can one-shot a Porygon, but that's one of them. Cool. And it's going to be a Wormwind. Okay. Onto the Indeedee slot, actually. Wow. That's an interesting target, mainly because normally, like, Indeedee is going to go for Helping Hand or Follow Me there anyway, but that's a really pleasant surprise. Like, I think that turn 1 played out almost as well as it could have, other than Palkia maybe going for a Protect or a Switch out turn 1. But I'll gladly take that as Instinct comes out. Okay, cool. Yeah, this actually puts us in a really nice spot, I think. Especially with Psychic Terrain being up. Like, you can't really do anything with the Incineroar at the moment into Indeedee. So I can protect Indeedee. The question here is, do I want to consider switching out? Because they're going to have Calyrex-Ice in the back. Dracozolt now suddenly becomes an interesting Dynamax option. I don't think my Calyrex is really that great here. Like, I also could just go Follow Me. But protecting Indeedee here seems okay. Yeah, I honestly think Zolt's not a bad max option is the thing. Okay. I'm going to go into Kyogre and Protect here. I actually think Calyrex may have been a better Pokemon to, like, potentially be sacrificing here. I think Kyogre can take a potential Max Wormwind. And if they go for Max Wormwind, for example, and then Instinct goes for a Dark-type attack, then the next turn I can just go for Follow Me into Origin Pulse, and that would put me in a really fantastic spot. So the fact Dracozolt survived turn 1 is pretty sweet. Okay, they go for Max Quake for a special defense boost, that makes sense. But that will actually allow me to survive pretty comfortably, actually. Parting Shot here into the Zolt slot would be a little bit scary, so let's see if they ended up going for that. Nope, it's going to be Taunt. Okay, cool. That's perfect then. Now, what I can go for is, I've got the Specs Origin Pulse here. I actually could just Water Spout anyway. Spout is tempting. 156 speed. Yeah, we're faster than Zolt, so I'm faster than Palkia here. It's just like Origin Pulse is such a nice way to KO right now. Specs Origin Pulse plus Helping Hand here feels okay. Yeah, I don't mind going for that. I mean, Spout... Okay, they actually switch out. But Calyrex-Ice is just going to get crushed by this if you, if I hit it. That's the other reason to go for Origin Pulse in this position, just for... actually, I don't know what the base power of Water Spout is given my HP range here. It's pretty close. I thought Origin would do just substantially more, but I could be wrong. Either way, though, we hit the Specs Origin Pulse. And that one-shots Calyrex. So now we can actually max Dracozolt in this endgame, which is awesome. Okay, and they're gonna Quake. This game was a little bit scary though, right? Like, even though it looked really good in the end for the Dracozolt, there was actually a lot that could have gone wrong for me. Including them just being max speed Palkia. Now, normally on these compositions, they opt for not as much speed investment and more like HP and special attack investment, but I've also seen variants where you do run just max special attack and max speed. So even though this worked out really well, turn one, like, I feel like I got away with way more than I really should have. So we'll take it, but doesn't necessarily mean I love how I played it, right? Okay. I actually think we have a pretty safe path to victory here, which would be Dynamaxing Kyogre just to one-shot Incineroar, protect Indeedee, and then just hoping follow me Breaking Swipe. I mean, I could also just Dynamax Dracozolt, right? But I think we have such a big lead here, and Geyser here should just ensure... Oh, I guess unless it's Sash Incin. Sash Incin into Trick Room actually could be a problem. So, yeah, maybe let's not get ahead of ourselves. I don't need a Helping Hand here either. Yeah, I'll just Protect and Origin Pulse. I don't want to, like... If it weren't Sash on Incin, then I think this play would always work. But fortunately enough, we hit the Origin Pulse. Okay, perfect. And this is the nice thing about Specs. Specs plus Helping Hand is just incredible support. Okay, they weren't Sashed in the end, but I wanted to respect that option, because if I max a Kyogre just to pick up a KO and I don't end up picking up that KO, then obviously it's not really great for me, right? Cool. So they're going to set up Trick Room now. I am just going to switch out into Calyrex-Ice Rider here and go for a Follow Me. Then we can just have Dracozolt and Calyrex out next to each other, and Palkia, unfortunately, is not strong enough to pull off a 1v4 comeback from this position. The only thing is I wanted to end the game with Dynamaxing Dracozolt, but I am not sure Maxing Zolt's actually... like, the question is whether or not I feint to a crit Spatial Rend. Yeah, I'm not confident on surviving that, honestly, so... Either way, though, really glad to feature how strong Choice Band Hustle Dracozolt can be, especially with Helping Hand support. Okay, so we're going to bring out Calyrex. We still haven't even Dynamax yet, so... Zolt being able to just pick up a KO, and then my opponent not going for Trick Room on turn 1 made things a lot better for us here. I don't even know if Spatial Ring gets a KO here. Let's see. With that special defense boost... it should. Yeah. Either way, it's slightly more HP. Okay, Indeedee faints. Terrain disappears. And now we can just go into Dracozolt. They do have a +2 special defense, so it's like the Kyogre in the back honestly doesn't do much into Palkia. So the best course of action here is to just Dynamax, Hailstorm into Palkia, and go for a Breaking Swipe. Yeah, just because here, like, Palkia can't one-shot Dynamax Calyrex-Ice Rider. And I just don't want to, like, end up maxing the Dracozolt just to get crit by a Spatial Rend. So, as fun as that would have been, I'm already pretty pleased about Dracozolt's performance in this game. Like, getting a one-hit KO onto a Porygon too, there's so few Pokemon in the format that can do that. And even fewer from a non-max move, right? Okay, Calyrex ends up being faster than Palkia here, which I shouldn't really be surprised by. Actually, because we were faster here, then I probably could have gotten away with maxing Zolt, but going Glacial Lance into Max Wormwind, but... Zolt was so essential in just getting that one-hit KO on a Porygon, so yeah, very fun performance here, and This team is just really cool because it's so like hyper offensive and aggressive, and you have so much surprising damage output between Choice Band Dracozolt, Choice Specs Kyogre, double helping hand from Indeedee and Whimsicott, and the Life Orb from Cinderace. So Cinderace was a little bit weird in this one because they had Intimidate support from Incin, and they were more clearly a Trick Room oriented composition, and Cinderace just isn't very good into the Palkia nor is Kyogre. So the fact that they didn't eliminate Dracozolt early on or set up Trick Room made things a lot easier for us here. So really fun first game, and let's keep things going. Next game here, and this is an awesome team. Ho, Dialga, Suicune, Rillaboom, Grimmsnarl, and Landorus. Very cool stuff. Okay. Let's see. What do we want to go with here? Calyrex is... I mean, it's important against Landorus and Rillaboom. Grim is always annoying. Zolt is pretty interesting for Bolt Beak into Ho specifically, but it's really weak into Landorus and Dialga. Okay, if I were my opponent, what would I be bringing? All their Pokemon are solid here, which is interesting. I'd love to utilize Cinderace if I can here. So that's like what I'm looking at right now at the moment. Just because we can Airstream, we can Darkness. We can Knuckle with Calyrex out next to it. Indeedee gives me Terrain Control, does have Helping Hand as well. Whimsicott gives me Tailwind, but I don't necessarily need Tailwind unless they lead Suicune. I'm also like not opposed to just Indeedee and Kyogre because Water Spout just like really poke some holes early on. Okay, Indeedee, Kyogre, Calyrex, and Cinderace is what I'm thinking of here. Dracozolt's like interesting because it's really good into Ho-Oh and Suicune, but it's really bad into Landorus plus Dialga, and I don't think it's like consistent enough for me to feel comfortable here with it. And Whimsicott you could definitely make a decent argument for, but I'd rather just have more offense. Now you could drop Indeedee for Whimsicott since Indeedee is the one Pokemon that, you know, doesn't really contribute much offensively, but I think redirection support is really nice here. It's gonna be Grim and Dialga. Okay, works for me. I mean, you would think turn 1 it's just a light screen, right, into a max move. So I'm down to just go for... you know, the problem here is that there's a decent chance it's Focus Sash on Grimmsnarl, which wouldn't be great for me. I think turn 1, I'm down to just go for a Follow Me into a Water Spout. I guess they could Trick Room here, but yeah. It's just Helping Hand is tempting because if they try to go for a Reflect, it's just, is it dual screens Grim here, or is it like fake out, you know, fake out variants? Okay, yeah, I mean, I'd rather play it safe here and go for Follow Me. Just get the Specs Water Spout off. Into Rillaboom, I guess? Okay, I'll take that. The thing about the Kyogre on this team is that you have no safe switch-ins on turn 1, essentially. Like, even if Light Screen is up, Water Spell still just does a ton. Although now I obviously wish I went for Helping Hand instead. But the cool thing is now I can pivot out into, Ooh, okay, that was a really sweet play. That was really sweet. Change the terrain so that you get the Fake Out off. Very cool. So it is Fake Out Grim. Like I said, then I wouldn't be surprised if it were Focus Sash as well. Okay, it is an opportunity now to go out into Calyrex, which is not bad. And go for a Protect here. I guess they could Glide Foul play Kyogre. That was an excellent play by them. Really nicely done. Glide Foul play to Kyogre would be a really strong play, actually, but... I mean, the thing is, I still got a Specs Kyogre out on the field right now, so I'm not even opposed to just going for a Follow Me into a Water Spout. Like, yeah, maybe they click Fake Out into Kyogre, but that's fine. Yeah, they don't. Okay, cool. But like I said, it could be Glide plus Foul Play. Ooh, Rillaboom's not even going for Glide, so Woodhammer or U-Turn here both make sense. And it's not Sash Grim. Okay, that's excellent then. Fake Out Grim without Sash is pretty interesting. Could be Babiri Berry, could still be Light Clay. And it is U-Turn coming out, okay. All things considered, though, I think that was a pretty good turn, right? Like, we eliminated Grimmsnarl immediately, which is good. Rillaboom is kind of problematic, but it's fine for now. Curious if they even brought Ho-Oh into this one. The Trick Room angle this turn is what scares me a little bit. But the thing is that we do have Babiri Calyrex-Ice Rider, which can actually take advantage of my opponent's Trick Room. Should they go into that. So, like, I think Rillaboom should definitely come out again. Yeah. Okay. Kyogre's still at full. Just double checking Calyrex's speed here. Yeah, it is max speed, right? So, like, the chances of Dialga outspeeding us under Trick Room are very high. So, you could just fake out into Kyogre and Trick Room right now. I'm down to go into Calyrex here and protect Indeedee. If they set up Trick Room, it's honestly, it's still playable. Like, normally Trick Room going up against this team is really bad, but I think it's doable here. And if they Dynamax, actually, I think that's really good news, because then it opens up the path for Cinderace plus Kyogre in the end game. Okay, they're going to max. Cool, I'll take it. Question is, what is their last Pokemon, right? Like, I think the last one being the Ho-Oh makes sense still, because you do have a lot of anti-Kyogre here between Rillaboom and Dialga. This also means, by the way, that if, like, Calyrex does survive the turn, it can be a pretty effective Dynamax option here as well for us. Okay, they went for Fake Out. Wouldn't be surprised if they doubled up into Kali slot, so let's see. Quake. Quake is fine. I mean, special defense boost obviously is a little bit scary, but I guess I do have to follow me here, right? Follow me to redirect the Grassy Glide from Calyrex. Yeah, it's max speed Dialga. Or not max speed, but it's faster than Calyrex. Oh wait, that's actually a pretty big problem then, because then you can just glide to KO Indeedee. Oh, I guess that's the question. Does Grassy Glide KO Indeedee from this range? Because if not, then my play is just to glide into Glacial Lance right now. I feel like Indeedee should survive. Because, yeah, we're max defense here. Let's say we faint, right? Because they're plus attack boosting item. We faint. I could protect Calyrex. Bring in Cinderace. But I can't even max guard with Cinderace. Okay. I think I'm just going to go for Follow Me Glacial Lance here. And I think if Indeedee survives the turn and Rillaboom stays in, we should win the game from that angle. I guess it's not a guaranteed victory either from there yet, but it would put us in a decent spot, I would argue. Oh, they didn't go for Grassy Glide. Okay. They go for Wormwind, which does one-shot us, and it dropped my Calyrex's attack now. I think Calyrex outspeeding Rillaboom here is pretty likely. Yep. Okay, cool, that works. I'll take it. The other interesting thing is now we can bring out the Cinderace and Dynamax it and max Airstream to outspeed Dialga with Calyrex. The thing is, if I think Ho is their last one, it also does make some sense to just bring out the Kyogre immediately. I'm not totally opposed to that, honestly. Because from this angle, I can protect Calyrex as well, and I think, like, I don't want to bring out Cinderace because I can't max guard it. Oh, it's Suicune. With Suicune coming out, then I actually could have brought out Cinderace and just gone Airstream into Seed Bomb onto the Suicune slot. The problem is now they can Tailwind with this, and that's really scary. I've got Babiri, though. With Babiri, do I survive Life Orb Steel Spike is the question. I've also got Specs Thunder here. I guess I can also Protect here. Okay, I'm going for Seed Bomb and Thunder into Suicune. I should have considered Suicune being their last one. Okay, so there's Specs Thunder. I don't think this one-shots, though. Wow, that was close. That was so close. Wormwind. Oh, into Kyogre, though. Okay, we win the game then. Cool. Unless the Suicune is faster than max speed Calyrex here, which I wouldn't expect. Okay. They are faster, actually, but they didn't go for a Tailwind. Cool. Even if you burn me, that's fine. Nice. And like everything's so low now, but I have Dynamax Cinderace in the back just waiting to come out. Right. So we should be good now. I think here, let's see, Dialga's Dynamax ends now. It's still not 100% over yet. I'm just trying to think like the guaranteed path to victory here. Because you could consider Dynamaxing either option here, but I don't think that really makes too much sense. With Max Cinderace, like, I can just protect... I mean, they should just target the Calyrex slot and ignore Kyogre right now. But the one way we throw this game is if I switch out Kyogre into Cinderace and then just, like, let it faint, right? So we need to let one Pokemon faint right now, essentially. I'm just worried about, like, Life Orb Roar of Time one-shotting Cinderace. That's actually pretty scary. Because a high jump kick will also just finish off Dialga from this position. You know what? Here, it's actually fine to switch Kyogre out, because if it means you're critting Cinderace, then it means Calyrex is getting an attack off onto your Dialga. Yeah. So I'm fine to actually just Glacial Lance and switch into Cinderace here. Normally I'd be cautious of it, but because Dialga can only pick up one KO right now, it's fine, unless it has some like really obscure spread type attack here. Okay, they just Flash Cannon. Cool. That should win us the game then, right? Because now I can bring out Kyogre. The main thing was because Kyogre was Specs locked into Thunder, it was essentially useless right now. So we get the Cinderace in safely, which is perfect. They take more Life Orb damage. Cool. Now let's just bring out Kyogre. Yeah, I think here Max Knuckle into Ice Beam is always okay. It might not pick up the KO, but Dialga's not going to get 2 extra attacks off, and I outspeed Dialga with both of my Pokemon right now. So Ice Beam, Max Cinderace, Knuckle. The thing with Dialga is it falls off pretty substantially after Dynamax ends, mainly because of the its typing. Like, there's just a lot of fighting and ground type attacks in the format, right? So you just take so much super effective damage. Like, that's why Dialga's really scary post Dynamax, because like Zacian's Sacred Sword just absolutely demolishes it. You gotta watch out for that. Cinderace Max is here. Okay, that protect just guarantees us the victory, because now it means I get a Knuckle off. So this was interesting. Like, we still haven't had a game where Cinderace just comes out and dominates from the early game, but it was pretty essential to have here in the late game, I think, for nice damage output into Dialga. And this could have played out a bunch of different ways, right? Like, let's say Dialga opted to set up Trick Room, then we can Dynamax Calyrex under Trick Room, but I was playing relatively flexible with the option of Dynamaxing either Cinderace or Kyogre in this one. High Jump Kick, or Protector is also smart, because, like, maybe you have a Wing Kong where I go for High Jump Kick, and then you get, like, a double Protect off. But with Knuckle and Ice Beam here, there's no way my opponent could really ever win. Even with, like, Roar of Time one-shotting the Cinderace, like, you take Life Orb damage, and then I get multiple Ice Beams off into your Dialga, right? And then it would be 3 Ice Beams, because it means I would get a Knuckle off, you would Roar of Time to maybe one-shot Cinderace, but Ice Beam would also go off beforehand. Yes, you do have some special defense boost, but then you also take Life Orb damage, and then you have to recharge the next turn, so that's another Ice Beam, and then a third Ice Beam the subsequent turn. So, you know, outpacing with both Cinderace and Kyogre was really important here. But really cool team, and I think that turn 1 play was nice too. But what gave us a lot of momentum early was just Kyogre, you know, getting so much damage across the board with Water Spout. So, yeah, glad to have Dynamax Cinderace in this one, and let's look for one more. Third match here, and we're up against a Solgaleo plus Kyogre team, which is really cool to see, and there's also Tornadus. So normally that implies Brutal Swing stuff onto Policy Solgaleo. Cinderace is really intriguing with Whimsicott support. Kyogre's honestly not bad, like Water Spout just packs a punch here. The main thing to worry about is them being max speed Solgaleo, so we probably want to assume that. Dracozolt for Bolt Beak's also interesting, but outspeeding them might be difficult. Calyrex is honestly not that great here. Like, it's not great into either restricted, so my opponent's end. I think I'm down for a Whimsicott plus Kyogre lead. I guess the only problem is if they just go Tornadus, Solgaleo, Tailwind turn 1, right? What if I just went with Whimsicott Cinderace? The problem with that is they could just go for a switch into Kyogre and then just target Cinderace, which I don't love. NDD plus Kyogre is interesting, but then it means I'm dropping something. Okay, I'm thinking Whimsogre, Cinderace, Calyrex, but to be honest, I think you could actually drop Calyrex or something in this matchup. Like, Calyrex does have two advantages. The first is that it's got the Babiri Berry, so I can resist a Steel-type attack from Solgaleo. The second is that I've got Seed Bomb to hit Kyogre for super effective damage. I guess the third is that it's also got super effective Glacial Lance onto Amoonguss, but yeah. I think one thing I'm still learning in this format is being more comfortable dropping Restricteds. And in this game, you could make a decent argument for it. It's going to be Amoonguss and Solgaleo. Okay. I think that's generally positive. Yeah, the only question here is, do I want to assume they're max speed Solgaleo? Taunt into Amoonguss is pretty free. The thing is, I could play the long game right now, which is baiting my opponent, because like Calyrex isn't that useful in this game anyway. So what I'm thinking here is we bait my opponent into Dynamaxing Solgaleo, waste 2 to 3 turns to their Dynamax, and then late game Kyogre under Tailwind with Specs Water Spell. It's just an absolute beast here. Ideally, Solgaleo maxes and goes for a... Oh, actually, Max Lightning wouldn't make much sense here now that I think about it. I guess that's one interesting thing to think about. Like, are you really going to have Max Lightning here? Because that's counterintuitive to Amoonguss trying to click Spore. But I'm also down to bring out Calyrex early because I don't really see any major opportunities for it to do a ton in this game. Now I can Glacial Lance the potential Tornadus in the back as well as Seed Bomb Kyogre, but don't think it's that essential here. Mentor Amoonguss is now what I'm a little bit scared about. But even if it's Mentor this turn, it's not a big difference maker. Because I brought in Calyrex essentially as a sacrifice. Yeah, they just went for Quake. But the thing is, if I stayed in with Kyogre here, I just would have gotten hit by Spore, right? And that would have been bad. So I'd rather let Calyrex just fall asleep here. Because the thing is, now I've at least soaked up your Mentor. This next turn is interesting, though, because if you're my opponent, you could obviously just read into the Mentor. Or me going for a taunt and just double up on Whimsicott with offense. Yeah, Mentor has all the difference maker here. And I think it's pretty underrated as an item on Amoonguss at the moment. Okay, if I were my opponent, I'd actually double up on a Whimsicott with the Steel Spike and whatever attack they have. So then the question is taunt even worth going for? I think the answer is still yes right now. Just to ensure Amoonguss can't Spore me the next turn. It's just that I want a Tailwind right now, I think. I'd rather taunt Amoonguss. Actually, I'm thinking about the long term right now, and I think I just get more value. Especially because like I can have Life Orb Max Airstream. Okay, they switch Amoonguss out, cool. That's actually a huge deal if I end up waking up earlier. Because the thing is, now by Tailwinding this turn, I can taunt Tornadus next turn to prevent them from Tailwinding. Although I guess it would have worked out the same if I just went taunt here. I would have actually had another turn of Tailwind to work with. I would think they target Calyrex here then. Nope, they're still targeting Whimsicott. Okay. The good thing right now is that we have the speed advantage. So I'm looking at a late game with Dynamax Cinderace next to Kyogre. Calyrex getting a 1-turn wake would also be huge here as it's free damage on the Tornadus, but now I can just taunt onto Torn. Then the correct play for my opponent here is to just protect the Tornadus if you have it. Yeah, actually taunt would have been better than... Because then I would be able to Tailwind and then Tornadus wouldn't be able to do too much. Okay. I'm still going to go for it, though, because I don't like switching either of my Pokemon in the back into a Steel Spike. Like, this team doesn't have too many switch-ins defensively, right? Cool. Okay, Tornadus actually does not opt for a Protect, meaning they don't get a Tailwind up. Now, they can get the Brutal Swing combo off. Okay, Calyrex stays asleep again, unfortunately. Yeah, they're going to go for Brutal Swing. But the thing is, now you pick up a double knockout, and I get Choice Specs Kyogre out safely next to Cinderace. I wonder if Glacial Lance would have just knocked out Torn there. They could be Sash as well, right? Oh, I actually hope Calyrex faints here. If we survive, that'd be awkward. But there's no way we survive. They're at +2, and we're not even maxed. Yeah. The Babiri here is mainly for when you're going up against, like, Zacian, and you can Dynamax with a little bit more confidence. Interestingly enough, we didn't go up against any Zacians today, which I wasn't expecting. Okay. So the key thing I have to be careful about that makes this endgame tough is the fact that my opponent can bring in the Amoonguss, right? But Cinderace is max darkness. Basically, the question this turn is, do you stay in with the Tornadus, or do you immediately... Like, one play you could make is just switch Torn out into Amoonguss and protect Solgaleo, correct? So, if I want to read into that, like, Airstream into Water Spout would just win me the game here if they do indeed protect Solgaleo and switch Torn out into Amoonguss. The problem is if they attack with Solgaleo here, because the alternative is I can just Darkness and Water Spout into the Solgaleo slot. Okay, I'm going to read into them switching Torn out and protecting Solg. Okay, that's a good start, but it could still be Solg attacking here. I think if Solg protects here, we actually win the game off this, but let's see. How else could I play this better? I mean, Mentor Amoonguss was just a major problem for me, right? Like, that's just a really big counter into what we brought here. I could manually set up the terrain. I don't think Calyrex-Ice Rider is really the solution. Never really figured out who was faster between Kyogre and Solgaleo, which was the other part of the equation. Okay, they don't protect. That should allow them to win the game then. I guess this makes sense, because it's like, even if I... Unless Specs Water Spout actually one-shots them. Because, like, I will get the KO here, but the thing is, they have that special defense boost. If they didn't have it, I think we'd actually get the KO. This is the other problem now, because I locked myself in a Water Spout. Kyogre, if it takes any damage, is just going to be useless for me in this endgame. But I needed to maximize my damage output here, I think. I was fine going for a play that would allow me to essentially win the game if they misplayed. Is that a crit, or does it really just do that much? Oh my gosh! Even with the special defense boost, Specs Water Spout just one-shots there. Wow. Now I have a speed boost, which is really essential as well, because it means even if your Choice Scarf Kyogre, our endgame's looking decent. Could still be Sash Tornadus. They could obviously Tailwind. I mean, that's huge though, right? I was expecting to just lose there, but Cinderace came up huge for us. I think here I'm just going to Water Spout and then Airstream into Kyogre. I need Airstream right now because I need a cover for them Tailwinding next. Basically, if I don't Airstream this turn, then they'll just outspeed both my Pokemon next turn with the Tailwind. I'm going to double up on the Kyogre. Okay, they just Tailwind. I mean, I have Tailwind and +1 speed, so I should just win from this. Well, not necessarily. But I don't think you're KOing my Cinderace here anyway, and that almost just one-shots Kyogre, so... Man, talk about damage output from Cinderace. That's incredible. Okay. And yeah, Water Spout just finishes it off. I mean, this is the power of Choice Specs Kyogre, right? Talk about a hyper-offense team really centered around it. Basically, to break down that turn a little bit more, there were a couple things I wanted to watch out for, right? The first is, if Kyogre is Scarfed, then you have to attack. So I have to Airstream to make sure that I outspeed you with my Kyogre. Oh, actually not necessarily, right? Because I already had a speed boost and Tailwind up, and we're max speed. If you're not Scarfed, you can protect there, but Airstream just ensures that I outspeed you next turn. I can just get a third Airstream into Water Spout off anyway. So, yeah. This is the power of late game Dynamax Cinderace, right? Like, we were able to stall out Solgaleo's Dynamax relatively effectively, which was huge, despite us even running into Mentor Amoonguss, which obviously caused some problems in the early game. The big thing, though, was the fact that Specs Water Spout one-shot the Solgaleo. I was thinking with the special defense boost, I wouldn't actually get the knockout, but it was a single target Water Spout at full HP, which was huge. So, I think the thing about this team is that there's immense comeback potential because, like, you can do so much damage through the combination of Cinderace, Kyogre, and Calyrex-Ice Rider, especially when you have helping hand support from both Whimsicott and Indeedee. So, really glad to feature both the Dracozolt and Cinderace components of this team. Dracozolt, like I mentioned, is really meant for redirection plus Palkia, but it can be really good in specific matchups as well. Just in this one, like, I didn't think it made a ton of sense, although it's actually pretty good against Tornadus and Kyogre, so you could make an argument for it. But Amoonguss is kind of annoying, although I guess we have Aerial Ace, which is actually pretty interesting. Huh. I guess one approach you could go with is like Whimsicott Dracozolt, Tailwind into Aerial Ace turn 1, just get rid of Amoonguss immediately. But I think what was really important in this game was making sure they didn't get Tailwind up until it was too late, and that's why the Whimsicott having Taunt plus the Tailwind combo was really essential. So that was really nice. Like, even though Whimsicott's Taunt here didn't work against the Amoonguss, it was still a really valuable move to have, because it meant that my opponent could like accelerate the battle and get a speed boost, or get a Tailwind up with Tornadus. And by not getting a Tailwind up with Tornadus, it means that I can outpace you pretty consistently, which is honestly really essential here. So this is a really fun hyper-offensive team, and it utilizes both Cinderace and Dracozolt, neither which we featured very much in Series 12. And, you know, like I mentioned, this team got top 16 at Salt Lake Regionals. And so thanks to Vishy for it. Thank you to you all as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day. Once again, details for the team are down in the description below, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.